Everyday Spy. One life, no compromises. Today we are here to talk about first strike. Now, when I conceptualized the idea of first strike, what I wanted to do was share with everybody my experiences as a trained intelligence officer engaging salespeople. And it's interesting because salespeople, they're just people, right? They're not good people or bad people. They're just people. They're people trying to hash out a life, trying to hash out a career like anybody else. But what makes them different is that salespeople make up almost 5% of the entire American population. There are 13 to 18 million sales staff in the United States as we speak. That number of people is just an inordinately large number to me. When you compare that to doctors, nurses, even when you talk about waiters and waitresses, salespeople outnumber almost every other industry that's out there. And on top of that, the amount of money that goes into training people in the sales industry tops out the list of all training funds for all other areas except for the US military. That means the only people trained better than salespeople are those people who are actually carrying weapons or working to defend our national borders. A certain amount of me takes credit or takes comfort in knowing that we have such highly trained security and national security staff. But then there's a part of me that says, how are we training? What are these salespeople getting in their training that constitutes so much spend? And what makes that spend worth it? That's kind of where the whole idea of first strike started coming to mind, because I wanted to research and understand more about sales. Since I left the agency in 2014, I ran into a number of different types of salespeople. The wonderful salesperson, the realtor who sold me my home. I have friends who are salespeople. I've made good friends with people who are trainers of salespeople. I've had small business owners who have become family friends. I have folks who are specialists in everything from genealogy all the way through librarian sciences. And they are, at their core, what they are all doing is selling to stay alive, selling to keep their business afloat. So here we see how sales is this integral part of our society. It's not just important to us because we are all consumers and we are all trying to make the best possible purchase we can make, but it's also important because the people who are out there trying to make a living, and oftentimes we are those people, there's an element of sales in everything we do. But unlike professional salespeople, unlike the people who sell us homes and RVs and cars, and the people who sell us televisions and the people who sell us on new cell phone plans, we are not given that detailed sales training. And I wanted to understand what that type of sales training included, and then I wanted to see how it compared to the type of training that I received at CIA. Because what we often joke about at CIA is that human intelligence officers, covert intelligence officers, are actually just glorified salesmen. Only the product that we're selling is espionage. We are selling people on the idea that it's in their best interest to commit espionage against their country, to become traitors when they are trusted patriots. And the same process, the same step-by-step process that we use to take them along the line, the slippery slope from patriot to traitor, that's the same process that salespeople use to take you from a lead to a conversion or to an actual sale. That's the same process, that process of development, of engagement, of identifying vulnerabilities, of creating and crafting the perfect pitch, and then of course to closing the deal. So that was kind of an enlightening experience, an enlightening discovery for me. And I really wanted to find a way to share it with you because I feel like this is one of those areas where espionage really presents itself in real life. And since Everyday Spy is all about showing espionage in everyday life, this was the perfect way to start that conversation. So if you don't know who I am, if you don't know Everyday Spy, if you found your way to me through Rob Booker, I'm really glad you're here. If you found your way through Noft, or if you found your way through any of the UFO specials that I've been a participant on lately, welcome. My name is Andrew Bustamante, and I am the founder of Everyday Spy. I am a former covert CIA intelligence officer. I'm a combat veteran with the U.S. Air Force, and I'm an Air Force Academy graduate from 2003. I founded Everyday Spy actually about a year and a half ago under a different name, then known as Everyday Espionage. And I went through a rebranding process to try to simplify the brand. And now that's why you know me as Andrew Bustamante, founder of Everyday Spy. I do host the Everyday Espionage podcast. It's a podcast that's growing on iTunes and Google Podcasts and anywhere else that you download your podcast. If you aren't already listening, please find your way to my podcast, download the podcast. It's just more free content, more examples of espionage in everyday life. That is the mission. How do we see espionage in everyday life, and how do we learn from the tools and the techniques that are used in the field to enhance and improve our lives, to take control in our lives, to defend and protect ourselves and our families and all the things that we care about in our everyday lives. That is the purpose of Everyday Spy. Now, you know who I am, but who are you? You are just like me. You are parents, you are partners, you are everyday people. There's a misnomer, a misunderstanding in our world, thanks to Hollywood, that spies are something special, that we are some kind of superhuman that exists in everyday life. And then we're plucked up and we're recruited and we're found in our raw form, our raw superhuman form. And then we're plugged into these exciting missions. We already have the ability to speak 7 languages. We are all able to blend in seamlessly into any culture. We have excessive amounts of history at our disposal. We have advanced cognitive skills. We have personal self-defense. We have outstanding shooting skills, all sorts of things that we're supposedly just naturally have. And then that's who we are. And we're found and we're put into the agency. That is not the case. And Tony, I see I got a message from you saying that the slides went down. You should see me on the main screen now. If you don't see me on the main screen, somebody let me know, because I may have done that wrong. Okay, we're good. So spies are not superhuman people. Spies are just normal, everyday people that were discovered because we had something in our background, some experience, something that made us interesting enough to have a conversation with an agency recruiter, or a Mossad recruiter, or a KGB recruiter, or a SVR recruiter. You name the service. But they find everyday people, and then they give everyday people extraordinary training. And they take a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of applicants are seen every year. And through a systematic process, they can whittle those tens of thousands down to just a few hundred or even less to actually receive the training that they offer. But the training is what makes us special. The training is what makes us different. And Everyday Spy is about sharing the pieces of that training that can be shared, that I can share. It's about sharing those with you, because I remember what it's like to not have the skills that I have. I remember what it's like to go through life as an everyday person, wondering whether or not there's anything special about me, or whether or not I'm crazy because I see things differently than other people see things. I know that feeling, and I know that the training is what makes it all come to life. The training is what bridges the gap between where you think that you're crazy, you think that maybe you're off your rocker somehow because everybody else seems to be okay with the real world. Everybody's okay with the way things don't work. Everybody's okay with the way that we cut corners and the way that people just accept what they're told. And then there's us, and we don't, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like we should accept these things. We question everything. We question authority. We always think that there's a better way. We always want to be learning. And when you're an outsider, because all you want to do is learn, you can actually start to convince yourself that you are wrong. I'm here to tell you that you are not wrong, that the skill, that question, that curiosity that you can't seem to put out is actually a sign that you are a fantastic fit for the kind of training that CIA gives its intelligence officers. So that's why it's important to me to share with you who you are, because you are that person. You are that person whose curiosity can't be satisfied. That's why you're here. That's why we get along. That's why thousands of people saw this advertisement, saw this opportunity, saw this presentation invitation, but thousands of people haven't shown up. They don't have that curiosity. So welcome. I'm glad that you're here. We are on the same page. You are like me. I am like you. And like you and like me, we live in a world where we all have to buy. You can't survive in this world without buying things. Sometimes you're buying a house, sometimes you're buying a car, sometimes you're buying diapers. Every one of us buys milk and bread. We have to buy. Buying is a fact of life. And we all love to buy. It's actually been proven by psychologists that we enjoy the process of buying, finding something that brings us joy, having the resources to purchase that something, and exchanging those resources for a tangible piece of gratification that we have purchased. And then we take that purchase back home, we consume it, we wear it, we share it, we give it to someone else. It is a positive experience. It is something we enjoy to do, or we enjoy doing. So make no mistake, we all have to buy, but we also love to buy. What we don't love is being sold. And there is a very distinct difference between buying and being sold. Even as I tell you this, you can feel that difference. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the difference between when you buy something because you want it and when you buy something because it's on sale, or you buy something because what you really wanted was sold out. Or in the case of First Strike, when you're sold something you never wanted because some salesman convinced you to settle on it. Some salesman convinced you that it was in your best interest to buy this other thing, to be sold something other than what you wanted to buy. Because the real difference between buying and being sold is control. Control is what differentiates the two. And for those of you who know Everyday Spy, for those of you who follow my podcast, if you follow the website, you know that control is what the brand is all about. Control is what I'm here to teach. Control is what I walked away from CIA having in my hip pocket for the rest of my life. The ability not to control everything, but the ability to understand what I could control, what I could not control, and how to predict and control certain factors that gave me a clearer picture, a clear understanding of the things that I could not control. And that's what we're all looking for. That's what we all want in life, is some semblance of control, more control, the kind of control that allows us to have confidence that we're going to reach our objectives instead of being out of control, or even worse, feeling like someone else is in control. Someone else is in control of your career, of your paycheck, of your daily schedule, of your weekly commute. Someone else is in control of your taxes. Someone else is in control of when you retire, if you retire. We all know the anxiety that comes from feeling like we are not in control. I want to help share some of the confidence that comes when you know that you are the one in control. First Strike is exactly that. It's a chance for us to talk about how we take control in a sales situation. Because we all love to buy, because we all have to buy, we might as well be the ones in control when we buy. So our mission today is a mission to take control. It's clear and it's simple. Everything that I'm going to teach you today boils down to you being in control. You being in control of every purchase, of every negotiation, you being in control when you sit across the table from a salesperson. That's what it's all about. So I want to start by talking about 3 secrets that salespeople don't want you to know. I understand that some of you on the call are salespeople. So by all means, I'm certain that you will understand and you will already know these secrets. I am not trying to give anybody the impression that salespeople are bad people. But there are techniques, there are skills that salespeople have. There are truths, fundamental truths that salespeople understand that the rest of us don't understand. We may think that we know them, we may suspect them, but we have not actually had the training, or we have not actually had the fact-based information given to us so that we understand what the secrets are. So some of these hopefully will validate your suspicions. Some of these may come as new news. Either way, my goal is for all of these to benefit you in some way. Secret number one is that salespeople must sell. It might seem silly, it might seem obvious at first, but think about that. Salespeople have to sell. They must sell. If they do not sell, they will lose their job. Right? This is not something they do because they love it. This is not something they do because it's nice to do. This isn't something that someone said, hey, if you've got some free time, come in and sell cars, or come in and sell mattresses, or come in and sell TVs. This is a career. It's a job. They have to sell. They have to successfully convert leads into sales. If they don't, they will lose their job. I told you that there's about 13 million salespeople in the US right now. Of that 13 million, of that 5% of the US population who are salesmen, less than 62% actually meet their sales quota. Think about that. Just over half of all salespeople actually meet their quota. The other half do not meet their quota. That's crazy. That means that if you are in any other job, if you are a dentist, if you are a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a garbage man, if you're whatever you might be, half of the people in your industry are not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not meeting the minimum. They're not meeting the minimum requirement. That is essentially what we're learning about salespeople. 62% hit their quota, and that's it. Everyone else does not. The other thing that's interesting about that, about salespeople, is that because only 62% hit their quota, that means there are anywhere from 35 to 55% turnover rates in the sales industry. So depending on whether or not you're talking about small-time sales or large sales, there's a huge amount of turnover. Half the workforce, half those sales workforce is turning over, getting fired or quitting their job because of pressure from selling. I don't want you to feel sorry for salespeople. I'm not trying to make you empathetic, but what I'm telling you is that when you sit across the table from a salesperson, they have to sell. If they don't sell to you, then they have that much more pressure to sell to the next person who comes across their table. And how many people went across their table before you ever sat down? How many people did not sign up for their bank account? How many people did not sign up for the extra 4-wheel deal? Or how many people did not buy into the idea of a lifetime warranty on their mattress? How many times are they getting rejected and missing the sale before you even show up as a possible purchaser? So understand, salespeople have to sell. They are not in control. They are not the ones who have the power in the dialogue, right? They are trained and they are experienced in sales. So they want you to feel like you can trust them. They want you to feel like they're in control. They want you to feel like they know what they're talking about because they want the sale. They need the sale or else they're going to fail. They don't want to fail. They don't want to be part of that 45% turnover. They don't want to be out on the streets finding a new job. They don't know if they're going to be selling windows on one day or if they're going to sell insurance another day or if they're going to get stuck selling cars. They don't know. And that uncertainty is a strong motivator for them to do their job, do it well, and do it ruthlessly. Very rarely do we ever have a ruthless thought in our head when we go to make a purchase. We think it would be nice to have a discount. It would be nice to catch a break. But essentially, we're there because we want something. We need a car, or we want a pair of shoes, or whatever it might be. These salespeople, they're not there because they want to be there. They're there because they have to be there. They have to make the sale. So the first secret they don't want you to understand, they don't want you to know, is that they have to sell. They're there because if they don't sell, they're going to be somewhere else. So know that secret. And we'll talk more about why it's powerful and how it can be used as an advantage for you. The second secret is that people, you and me and everyone else, people buy with emotion, but we justify our purchases with logic. Again, this might be something that you already suspected. It might be old news for you, or it might be something that you've never really reflected on. But hear me again. We buy with emotion, but we justify our purchases with logic. Why is that important? It's important because you can't trust emotion, first and foremost. If I haven't taught you that, if you follow the podcast or the website and you haven't gotten the gist that emotions work against you, let me say it clearly. You cannot trust your emotions because your emotions come from a part of your brain that bypass your decision-making capability. So we're always catching up with emotions unless we program ourselves to intercept those emotions and process them before we start acting on them. So when you buy with emotion, essentially what that means is that you're buying from a place where you're not even making the decision. You're buying because of an emotional response. And then after you make the purchase, after you make the decision because of the emotion, then logic kicks in and you start to defend your decision with logic. Now, again, if you are already following the Everyday Spy website, you know that that is false logic. Having a reasoned defense for a decision that you made that was an emotional decision is a logical fallacy. It's a flaw in your thinking. So this secret, this tool, this truth that salespeople know is that you and I will buy emotionally. And then after we have made the purchase, we're going to suddenly start to defend our own decision, our own purchase. We're going to start taking ownership of it through reasoned logic that is faulty. In the rare instances where we don't justify well enough, where we start to have an emotional response to our emotional purchase, that's called buyer's remorse. And every salesperson out there, every spy out there is trained to deal with buyer's remorse. We are trained to see it, identify it, and we know exactly how to turn it back over itself so that we can get people to start to react emotionally again to their purchase so that they can come back and land again on reasoned logic to defend their purchase. So as an example, if you buy a car that's outside of your budget, right? You're going to feel really good. You're going to feel good when you see the car, when you get the deal on the car, when you drive it off the lot, when you go home, you look great in your new car. You post it all over social media. This is my new car. It's great. And then you might wake up the next day and be like, how am I going to afford this thing? This is outside of everything that I can realistically afford. So then you start to freak out, and fear is the emotion that counterbalances the good feeling that you had previously. Maybe you call the dealership, you call the salesman, maybe you take it back. You start to show remorse. And as soon as the salesperson sees that remorse, they know that they have to take that emotion, they have to shape your emotion back to a positive emotion, back to the place where you're happy and you're excited to show off your new car. You've earned the right for this car. You work hard, you deserve to have a nice car, right? They're gonna find a way to flip that back to an emotional place where you are triggered with positive emotions because they just need to send you back home to see if you have a better outcome rationalizing the decision again the next day. You're not going to keep going through a cycle of emotional breakdown that brings you back for more remorse, right? Instead, all we need to do, all the salesperson, all the spy needs to do is convince you that there's a positive emotion tied to your decision and let you do the rest because you will rationalize it. You'll either rationalize it because you don't want to embarrass yourself further by continuing to go back. You don't want to admit that you made a mistake. You don't want to admit to your friends on social media that you purchased something that was outside of your budget. There's all sorts of things, all sorts of emotions that boil over in a purchasing situation that we find a reasoned logical argument to justify our purchase. My wife, I love my wife to death. I have always teased her about shoes because she is super picky about her feet. Shoes have to fit her heel exactly right. They have to fit her toes and the ball of her foot exactly right. She never knows if shoes are going to be comfortable or not until after she's walked like a mile in the shoes. So whenever she buys shoes, it's always a crapshoot whether or not the shoe is actually going to survive past the first mile. But shoes, you can return shoes anywhere. I mean, whether it's online or whether it's a shoe store, as long as you haven't basically destroyed the shoe, you can take it back and they're gonna switch it out. The margins on shoes are so high, salespeople and shoe stores, they just want to push the product. If it comes back, it goes back to a warehouse and they're covered. It's no big deal. But regardless, my wife never wants to return the shoes. She always has some defense for why she should keep the shoes. Sometimes the defense is, well, my foot might be swollen right now. Or maybe it'll be a good shoe for me to wear in cold weather. Or maybe it's just the socks that are making the shoe feel tight. There's always some kind of seemingly logical reason why she should keep the shoes, when all I want her to do is return the shoes. But she won't. The idea of admitting that she should have never bought them, or that they didn't really fit right, or that she caved to pressure sales, or she gave in on the sales price, whatever it might be, she does not want to return the shoes. So we end up every year taking a half dozen or more pair of shoes and donating them at the local Goodwill because they're never getting worn. We do the best, we make the best of what we can with that one little area where we continue to struggle. But it's a perfect example of how we buy with emotions. We buy because we are excited to look good in a pair of shoes. We are excited to start a new workout in a new pair of running shoes. We have big plans for what we're buying. And then we rationalize why it wasn't very good, why it wasn't a good purchase. We rationalize our way back to considering it as a good purchase, as something that we're going to keep and something that we might even need. So that is secret number two. Secret number two is that we as people, we all buy with emotion and we justify our purchases with logic. Salespeople know this. Now you need to know this too. Secret number three is that salespeople love competition. Salespeople are born competitors. If they're not competitive by nature, then they don't last very long in a sales job. And especially those of you who are on the phone who are in sales or who have experience with sales, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the lifeblood of sales, the idea that you can and want to compete. Salespeople normally get paid about 50% of their earning potential. And the remaining 50% is incentives to sell. So there are executives, there are account executives who average about a $42,000 a year income. And they're account executives for large firms. But the reason that they are given a $42,000 salary is because they have the opportunity to earn up to and over $100,000 a year if they meet their quotas and if they convert new sales. That's a huge amount of space to incentivize sales. There are people who get paid on commission. There are people who get their bonuses based off of total sales. Salespeople thrive on competition. They love competition. And when they see you walk in, essentially, you are the competitor. It's you versus them. Are they going to make the sale or are you going to walk out? Are they going to get the highest price or are you going to negotiate for the lower price? It's this game, and that's why they don't get tired. You get tired being in a car sales office for 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon, but they don't get tired. They don't get tired by it, right? Because that is the competition. It's the thrill of the race. They are in the arena. They are fighting the tiger, right? It is sales. There's a reason that you see so many salespeople who have backgrounds in college athletics and high school athletics. They are avid fans of sports on TV. They love competition. Salespeople who do well love competition, and people who do not do well with competition ultimately find their way out of sales. They find their way into something else. So remember, salespeople love competition. All three of these secrets are important because we're going to learn how we can use these secrets against salespeople. So these are the three secrets I need you to remember. Salespeople must sell. People buy with emotion and justify with logic. And salespeople love competition. These are the three secrets that you now know that salespeople don't want anyone to know. Because as soon as people start to understand these secrets, people will start to understand the mind of a salesperson. If you already knew these, I'm happy to validate that you knew these. If some of these are new, then we're all on the same page. So let's move forward, because just knowing the secrets isn't enough. What we actually have to do is know how to use these secrets, how to use them for our own advantage. So the first secret is that salespeople must sell. And the way that we use this to our advantage is that we can control when. We can control when they sell. We know they have to sell. They know they have to sell. They want to sell as often as possible. They want to spend as little time as possible on each new lead so they can get us to say yes, flip the sale, and get that much closer to their quota or that much closer to filling up their end of month bonus. So salespeople must sell. The place where they have no control is when we choose to buy. They can almost control if we buy. If they know the right thing to say, if they know how to pull the right emotional lever, they can get you to buy almost anything. But they don't have any control over when you choose to buy. So knowing that they must sell is powerful because you have the ability to choose when they sell. They should only sell to you when it's in your best interest. As an example, every salesperson has a quota. The quota usually comes up at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter. When do you think you're going to get the best price on whatever you're trying to buy? At the end of the month or at the end of the quarter. Because if they haven't met their quota, they are going to be all in to try to meet it at that point in time. If you try to approach a salesperson at the beginning of the month or at the beginning of the quarter, you're going to be the lowest priority on their radar. They just survived the previous quarter or they just survived the previous month. They're in coast mode for a few weeks at least. It's time for them to celebrate the paycheck that they just got. You don't matter at all. They'll worry about their quota in a few days or in a few weeks, long after you are frustrated with the fact that nobody helped you or nobody bothered to try to negotiate with you or nobody cared to show any interest in you. You've seen this. You've seen this in every car buying experience you've had. You've seen this when you walk into a shopping mall. You've seen there's times that people care and there's times that people don't care, right? Because they must sell, but they don't have any control over when you buy. So the way that you take the power from them is that you control when they sell. When you control the timing, when you control the when, you get the highest possible value, the lowest possible price, and you have all the negotiating power, all the leverage in the conversation, because they have to make that sale. They are up against a wall. They have to close, or else they're going to be part of that 28% of salespeople out there who are not meeting quota and who are very likely to experience some kind of non-voluntary turnover in their job. So you control when, and that's how you take control, take advantage of the fact that they have to sell. Now, our second secret is that people buy with emotion and justify with logic. How do we take that? How do we flip this to our advantage? We do it by making the salesperson emotional first. Make them emotional first. Because the first person to struggle with emotions is the person who's going to break down. The person who's in control is the person who is not making emotional decisions. So let's consider the first two secrets together. If you control the when and you show up to buy something at the end of the month, right away, as soon as you walk in the door, there's an emotional response on the part of that salesperson. Because they're going to get excited, they're going to get hopeful, they're going to be like, okay, this is a chance. I've got to make this sale, I've got to close this deal, or else I'm in a world of hurt, right? I only have an 8-hour workday, or I don't want to have a 12 or 15-hour workday, so I've got to make every minute count. I've got to make every hour count. So all of a sudden, the same person and the same amount of time that they would have spent with you at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month, the quantities are the same, but the quality of that time, the value of that time for you is significantly more when you control the when. And you controlling the when means that they're going to come to you from an emotional state of mind. They want the sale. They need the sale. They've got to make the sale. They're afraid of what happens if they don't make the sale. And if they're the ones operating from a place of fear, then they're the ones getting emotional first. All of their tools, all of their training is built around them not getting emotional, around them making you emotional. That's their job. Their job is to sell you on a dream, on a hope, and then convert you from there. They're completely unaware. They're unprepared when they come to the table afraid, or when they come to the table nervous, or when they come to the table intimidated. So you get them there first. If you can get them to the place where they're making the emotional decisions first, where they're the ones showing emotion first, then you're in control of the marionette. You can have basically anything you want to have. They will be your advocate to their supervisor, asking for things that they wouldn't ask for if they had a gun to their head, because they need that sale so desperately. And you can all of a sudden control that dialogue. You can control that conversation because you understand they have to sell. You're in control of when they sell, and they are an emotional wreck, which means anything that they choose to do, guess what they're going to do when they go home? They're going to rationalize their decision with logic. And you're going to be holding the keys of the kingdom because you won the day. You knew what to expect because you got them emotional first. It works both ways. Whether you're the one buying the shoes or whether they're the ones selling the shoes, the person who gets emotional first will lose. And that person will also go on to justify their loss with logic. And they will try to find a way to reason their way through why they got emotional and why the decision they made was a good decision in the end. So let them be the ones that do that. Let the salesperson be the one that breaks down under pressure, that breaks down from the emotion. You don't have to be that person. Make them emotional first. Now, the last secret that we know is that salespeople love competition. They love competition, so you have to tell them how to win. They don't know how to win. They don't know how to win you. They don't know how to win their competitor. They don't know how to win the top salesperson for the week or for the month. They don't know how, but they all want it. They're doing whatever they can. They're firing into the blackness to try to figure out if they'll just get lucky and they'll win that day, right? But if you can partner with them and tell them exactly how to win your business, exactly how to win that sale, if you can make them believe that they will continue to win you as a repeat customer, now all of a sudden you are absolutely in control of that conversation. Before I left for UAE, I was in a place where we didn't know exactly when we would get the security clearances that we need, the country clearances that we need, the start date that we were going to get. It was kind of in a situation where we were a little bit in flux. So I had to find a hotel that was going to house us for a period that was in flux, house me and my wife and a family of 4, plus my sister who was moving out here with us, plus all of our luggage, right? It was a weird kind of request, a weird conversation to have, trying to convince someone that, yeah, we might stay for 2 weeks, we might stay for 2 months. We're not 100% sure, but give us the best rate that you can give us. So I was talking to a Hilton hotel outside of Washington, D.C., and they had their daily rates. And no matter who I talked to on the first line of reservations, right, the reservation people all said the same thing. They said, if you can tell us how long you'll be here, we can give you a promotion, or you can go online and you can buy it that way, or you can buy 2 weeks at a time and pay whatever the going rate is. I didn't want to do any of that. That put them in control. Every conversation I was having, they were the ones in control. I was the one that was at the emotional disadvantage. I was the one who wasn't able to control when. So I had to find a way to flip that on its head. So I found one specific hotel. I called that hotel directly. Instead of calling the international reservation line, I called that hotel directly to speak to the sales rep for that hotel, the person who's in charge of selling conference rooms and the person who's in charge of selling blocks of rooms for hotel or for wedding parties or whatever else, right? I found that person who is a salesperson who is intimately invested in meeting a certain sales quota every month. I called that person at the end of the month and I told them my situation. And I said to them, if you can give me a competitive rate, I will stay with you for the entirety of my stay, whether it's 2 weeks or whether it's 2 months, I will not leave your hotel if you can give me a competitive rate. And she worked. She worked hard to give me a rate that was competitive online, competitive against the other hotels in the area. Now, when she finally gave me that rate, I told her, this is a good rate, but I know for a fact that the Marriott down the street will offer me a lower rate than this because I am like a silver member Bonvoy Marriott person, right? My previous company had me staying in Marriotts all around the country. They're going to give me some kind of special deal because I'm a silver elite member. But I don't want to go with Marriott. I want to go with Hilton. I like Hilton more. It's closer to where I'm trying to travel out of. It's more convenient to me to go with Hilton. Can you just help me get a price that beats Marriott? And all of a sudden, when she was at the lowest possible price that she could get, when I mentioned to her that she would win my business over Marriott by giving me a lower price, she made it happen. She had to make a few calls, she had to make a couple decisions, but she made it happen. Because what I did is I told her how to win. I knew that she wanted to win. She's a salesperson. Of course she wants to win, but she doesn't know exactly how to win. So you have to tell them how to win. When you tell them how to win, you will be amazed at what they are willing to do to win you. Not even because it's the right thing to do, not even because it's in their best interest. They just want to win. They want to beat the competition. So remember these 3 tactics and how these 3 tactics pair with the 3 secrets. You control when, you need to make them emotional first, and then you need to tell them how they can win. These 3 tactics will pair with the 3 secrets so that you are in control of every sales situation. I don't care if you're buying a cup of coffee. I don't care if you're negotiating for the majority share of another business. If you control the sales experience, then you will be the one who ends up in the best possible position coming out. So remember these 3 tactics. You control when, make the other person emotional first, and tell the salesperson how to win. All right, that's the core of what I want to teach, but I have some more to give you. So before you go, let me give you 2 bonus tactics, 2 tactics in addition to the secrets that we've learned that I want you to use when you continue to engage salespeople. The first one is that I want you to cement your budget. Make your budget firm. This is contrary to what most people think. Most people think that you have to have a flexible budget when you go to make a purchase, that having some squish, having some freedom in your budget is going to help you get more for your money. That is completely and totally wrong. You want to cement your budget, make it firm, give yourself a hard starting point and a hard ending point. When you have that, you're going to counteract the opportunity for the salesperson to make you emotional first, right? They don't have the ability to emotionally convince you to extend your budget. They don't have the ability to play with your emotions and get you to go to the high end of your budget because you have a cemented budget. It's a firm budget. That will come across very clearly when they start to negotiate with you, when they start to talk to you. They will see that you are a responsible buyer with a firm budget. It will also make you feel like you are more in control. And if you feel like you are more in control, then you're going to control the when, and you're going to have the tools to tell them how they can win your business because you have a firm budget. You can honestly sit there across the table and tell them, I am not spending more than this amount of money. What can you give me that is in this amount of money? And if you can't give me something I want, then I'm going to go to a competitor. But I want to do business with you, work within my budget. If you can cement your budget, you will control that sales experience. And you can disarm with honesty. I mentioned just a few seconds ago that you can sit across the table and honestly tell them that this is your budget. Salespeople are not used to dealing with honesty. They are not used to dealing with honesty among their peers. They are not used to being honest, and they are most definitely not accustomed to having customers approach them with honesty. If anything, they're probably accustomed to having customers come in thinking that they're going to wheel and deal and outperform the salesperson. It's a ridiculous concept. Salespeople sell all day long, every day. There is no trick they haven't seen. There is no angle they haven't considered, right? This is what they're trained to do. So if you show up with honesty, honestly holding to your budget, honestly controlling when you buy, and honestly telling them how they can win your business, they will be disarmed. All of a sudden, the hostility and competition will not be directed at you. It will be directed at the competition. It'll be directed away from you, and you will have control of the sales experience, the sales dialogue. So these two bonus tactics pair really well with the previous three. Cement your budget and disarm the competition with honesty. That's what I want you to do. If you can do those three tactics, if you can keep in mind these three secrets, you will never have a bad sales experience again, because you will be the one in control. I see a question from Promise Keeper. We must be able to get up and walk away from the table at any time. You've got question marks there, but I want to turn that into an exclamation point. Absolutely. You must be able to get up and walk away at any time. You're not emotionally invested in the sale. If you're emotionally invested, we're suffering from secret number 2, right? So don't let yourself get emotional. Let's say you really want the Subaru. When I went to go buy a Subaru in 2007, it was a mind-boggling experience, because I went to the Subaru dealership. I told them I want to buy a Subaru. I told them my budget. It was the beginning of the month. I was brand new at the agency. I had not yet gone to the farm, right? I was excited to buy a car, my DC car. And the salesperson at the Subaru had no interest in me at all. He was like, your budget's not going to afford anything significant. Subaru is a name that carries, XYZ pride, and our people who buy these don't worry about budgets. And I was just floored, because this dude just totally shut me down. And that was one of the experiences that I still remember to this day, after I got my training at the farm, where I started to realize, I see why. I see why he felt the way that he felt, because he thought that he was in control. And he was. I wasn't able to just walk away from the table. He was able to walk away from the table. And when he walked away from the table, he tried to make me feel inferior. So it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I need you to understand that you're in control. I need you to not get invested emotionally. The thing that kept me from buying a Subaru that day, arguably, was the fact that I was not emotional and I had a cemented budget. So, Andrew, a long question here. The fact that the Hilton salesperson was willing to go below the lowest price, was that due to a sunk cost fallacy? So you're getting into some economics here. When you talk about sunk cost, and I don't want to make it into an economics lesson, but sunk cost is not really a fallacy. If there's a sunk cost fallacy out there, then I'll research it and understand more about it after this. But sunk cost is very real. And I think that when a business has to consider the sunk cost, the cost that's going to go into making the sale or not making the sale, this is the cost that they can't get past, that's a very simple black or white 1-0 buy. That's a one-way street. But the emotional piece about beating the competition, that's what changes the game. The fact that they're willing to take the sunk cost and put someone in the room at a lower margin just because they don't want to lose that person to Marriott, I think that's the real game changer. That's the reason I drive a Honda back in the States instead of a Toyota, because one person wasn't willing to budge. The other person was absolutely cutthroat about beating their competition, right? That's why I go with Hilton instead of Marriott. This is a very interesting fact-based approach to countering sales. And I want you to have these tools, because everybody's got a Christmas break coming up. Everybody's got a summer vacation every year. Don't let these salespeople run rampant over you because you need to know how they think. These tactics put you in control. A lot of you have reached out to me and asked me for more. You've asked me for more on the website. You've asked me for more on the podcast. I wish I could give you more tonight, but we're almost at our hour. But I'm telling you that if you want more than what we've covered today, I have it ready for you. I have it ready for you in an exclusive event where I am offering 50 hours of the type of cognitive coursework that I received at the farm. Essentially, I want to walk you through the first and most foundational part of the farm over a 10-week training event that I am calling OpThink. OpThink is the same approach that we use at the farm, that CIA uses, that DIA uses, that Mossad and SVR. Everyone uses an approach where we start by mastering the mind, by teaching people how to think, how to approach everyday problems, how to approach the problems of an operation, and how to get past the cognitive barriers, the cognitive biases, the personal fears. How do you get past them so that you can take control of the situation, you can take control of the operation, you can take control of the adversary? That is what OpThink is all about. That is what we learn at the farm. That is the first step to actually becoming a field agent. If you can't understand how to master your mind, then there's no reason to teach you how to master a vehicle or how to master a weapon or how to use your hands as a weapon. There's no reason to teach you anything advanced if you can't learn to take control of your mind. What I have seen is that the same lessons that teach us how to take control of our mind for a field operation are the lessons that allow us to take control of every aspect of our everyday life. They teach us how to win at work. They teach us how to win negotiations. They teach us how to win new business. These are the skills that the world is lacking because the world does not get the opportunity to go to spy school. So I want to invite you now to join me for the next 10 weeks with OpThink. OpThink is the technique that secret intelligence services use to build the mind and make a warrior. This is the beginning of spy school. And I want to offer this to you as early adopters because you are the first ones to take the plunge and start learning this with me. So no one will ever see this price again. For 24 hours, for those of you on this call right now, and for anybody who you want to reach out to in the next 24 hours, I want to offer this training to you, 10 weeks with me for $399, down from the retail price of $17.99. If you are interested, if you want to learn more, I want you to go to the website, everydayspy.com/OpThink. I am not trying to sell you anything. I just spent an hour teaching you how not to be sold. This is not for you if you're feeling emotionally wedded or emotionally pressured. This is something for people who have already asked for it. This is something for people who realize that there is a deeper truth. There is a sharper tool set that's out there that they can use in their everyday life, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's professional engagement, whether it's developing your own sales skills, or whether it's developing your own parenting skills, your professional skills, whatever it might be. Operational thinking is the tool that we use to take everyday people and turn them into elite warriors. Once you know how to think, you can do anything. You can go anywhere. You can win any battle. But you can't do it until you know how to think past the barriers that we have been conditioned to think in our culture and that we have been conditioned to think through our education. I want to share OpThink with anybody who wants to learn it. And I know not everybody wants to learn it. I'm not worried about everybody. I am excited to invest myself and my time into the few people who realize that they can make a difference far beyond what they've done in the past. They just need to learn how to think past those barriers. So if that's you and you are interested, find your way to everydayspy.com/OpThink. There's a guarantee on this program. I am not trying to sell something to you that's not going to work. If you can make it through the 10-week program and it doesn't change your life, I am more than happy to pat you on the back and give you your money right back again. This is not a sales pitch. This is an invitation for those willing and interested in exploring something new. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to flip back to the screen so I can answer any questions that you have. Again, everydayspy.com/opthink. If you want more and you don't know where to get it, if I can't write articles fast enough, if I can't record podcasts fast enough, if you want to be part of a small contingent of people who go through live real-time exercises, actual operative coursework, who want to experience what it's like to recondition your mind for cognitive performance, OpThink is for you.